Hello everybody and welcome to my bookshelves. I hope you like them. I thought it would be fun to chat about books because no one will listen to me in person. So these are the books that I've read in April, and I thought I would give you all a bit of a breakdown of my thoughts and feelings. So going into April, I was halfway into my journey through reading The Hunger Games. So I started off by reading The Mockingjay, and then I also read Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. I still haven't read the Sunrise on the Reaping, and I really want to, but I don't know whether to buy it on my Kindle or wait until like the paperback of this version of the covers comes out, I think in September, because I don't know if I want to buy it on my Kindle and then buy it again when it gets published. So I might wait. I don't want to, but I might wait. I also haven't seen the film of this yet, so once I saw that it was coming out, I knew that I needed to read all the books, because obviously the books are always better than the films. So now that I have read this, I need to watch it, and I cannot wait to do so. Going into these books though, I absolutely loved and adored them. They're such good books. The one thing that really threw me, and I for some reason wasn't expecting, is the font in this book is so much smaller than in this book, because obviously this was written for young adults, and this one is, I don't actually know if it's still young adult, but just to kind of, if you don't know, this is Songbirds and Snakes, and then this is how the first three books are. So it really put me off actually quite a bit, but I did really get into this. I really like this story, not what I expected, and so I'm excited to see how the film portrayed this book. I'm sure I will come back and give you all my thoughts and feelings on the film once I've watched it, because yeah, I've not seen the film for this yet. I haven't actually seen the Mockingjay films in years. I think it'll be fun to watch The Mockingjay again now I haven't read the book, to see what's different and what's not, and how it's portrayed. Overall, I think I gave both of these a 4 stars. I really liked them. I just think for Mockingjay, obviously it's aimed at a younger audience, and I'm not that younger audience anymore. I think it just felt quite rushed in spaces, unfortunately for me. But I still really enjoyed it, and obviously the characters are so good in this. So that was a 4-star. And I also did give Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes 4 stars. I think it just took a while for me to get into it. I felt like some of the chapters kind of went on more than they needed to. That might just be a me thing, but I did really enjoy it. It just wasn't blowing me away. So yeah. First 2 books were 4 stars, which I feel like is quite a good start to the month. It was a good omen, I will admit. The next book that I read was The Defender by Anna Huang. I was really excited to pick this up. I think I gave The Strike a 4.5 or 5 stars. Like, I really loved the first book, so I was really eager to get my hands on this one and read it once I was like in the right mood for it. And that was in April. And unfortunately, this kind of fell a little bit flat, and I'm really quite upset about it. So this book is set in London, and it follows Vincent, who is, I want to say her name, is it Scarlett? In the first book's brother. I love the characters, I love the setting, I feel like it's described really well. I just felt like with this book, it just felt a bit jumpy for me in places, which it was really sad. Whilst I was reading this, I found that I would read one chapter and then I would like look at the next, and it had just fast forwarded like a few days without really giving you much context as to how it got to that. Like, there's no mention of what that plan was in advance before. Like, what am I trying to say? I was a bit confused when I got to some chapters, because it would just randomly jump, like it would randomly fast forward a couple of days, and like it kind of took me a second to like pick up on where I was and what was happening. And for me, I feel like it could have been avoided, because this book is probably about 100 pages shorter than The Striker was. The Striker is like a 500-page book, but I feel like it was okay to be that long. Usually I'm against romances being more than 400 pages, but in this case I feel like it needed to be. I really feel like it needed to be. And so for that reason, and that reason only, I did give this a 3.5 stars. I still loved it though. So the next book that I read was actually my first Stephen King book, and I borrowed this off of a friend who exclusively reads Stephen King. I'll be honest, going into it I was a bit nervous because I'm not a big like horror, gory kind of girl. Like I do not want to know all the gory details by any means. That being said, this was really interesting as far as Stephen King and fantasy goes. I'd say it's definitely more of a low stakes book. What I really liked about this book was the fact that it was told through a narrator, and that just made it feel like I was reading a little fairy tale, which was so fun and so different compared to other fantasy books I have read. It's set in a medieval kingdom called Delane. It follows King Roland, his magician called Flag, and then the two sons, Peter and Thomas, and Peter is the eldest, so he was next in line for the throne. I actually don't know what to say about this book. One thing I love about this book is the fact that it had really short chapters, so I read it really quickly. And I also did some research once I finished reading the book, and Stephen King actually wrote this as a book for his children, so which makes so much sense because it's so low stakes, but it's still really interesting. It still has really thrilling aspects towards the book that make you want to read on and find out what's going to happen, but it's not going to keep you up at night, which was great for me because I was definitely worried that I would scare myself whilst reading it before bed. But yeah, I really loved this book. It was really different and really unique. Will I read another Stephen King? Maybe? I really loved the book though, and I definitely recommend it if you're looking for something a little bit more fairy tale-y and not as stressful, and it's just the one fantasy book, it's not in a series. And also if you want something that's just so different to any of the other fantasy I've read, I definitely would recommend this book because I don't think I'll ever read a fantasy book quite like it. Maybe I'll be wrong, we never know. I might come back in a couple of years and take that back, but for now I just found it really unique and really interesting. So following on from that, I then picked up another book that I'd been borrowing from a friend, and so the next book I picked up was House of Salt and Sorrows by Erin A. Craig. I loved this book. I feel like I may have heard of this before on TikTok a few years ago, and I just never made a note of it, never picked it up, never read it, but I saw my friend reading it and I was like, oh, is that, I feel like I've heard of that. She's like, oh, it's really good, like borrow it. So I did, and I finally picked it up. This is a really, really interesting book. It follows a girl called Annalie who lives at Highmore, which is a giant mansion house from what I can imagine and picture. Annalie is actually one of 12 sisters, but a lot of them have recently passed away, and it kind of goes from there. The book starts with her kind of attending the funeral of one of her sisters and goes on from there. I really enjoyed the mystery aspect of this, with Annalie trying to figure out what suddenly caused so many of her sisters to pass away. Once I started reading this book, I was like, this seems familiar. Someone with 12 sisters, that's interesting. And then they start talking about ballrooms, and I'm like, oh, this is really familiar. And then they go to a cobbler to get some dancing shoes, and I was like, oh my god, I feel like I'm reading Barbie and the 12 Dancing Princesses. And lo and behold, this book is actually a retelling of Barbie and the 12 Dancing Princesses. So if you are a 2000s Barbie girly like myself and you haven't read this book, consider this your sign to read it. This had so many references to the film to the point where I was reading them and I was like, oh my god, this is amazing. I love this. It's definitely a dark fantasy, like almost slightly gothic retelling. If you like ghosts and you like spooky things, but you also liked the Barbie films, this is the book for you, massively. It's so good. I gave this book 4 stars. I really, really enjoyed it. I just didn't get the 5-star feeling that I get when I read a 5-star book. So really, really good. would so thoroughly recommend if you're a 2000s Barbie girl. And that's all I've got to say about that, really. So the final book that I read in April is Murder at Mount Fuji. This is by, who's this by? Shizuko Natsuki, I'm gonna say. I actually picked this up with my friend and we've been buddy reading it. I only finished this the other day, so it's still fresh in my head. But we picked up this book to buddy read because it seemed really interesting. So this book follows a woman called Jane, who's an American studying in Japan. She's invited by one of her classmates, Chiyo, to come and spend the time after New Year's at her family's, like, I was gonna say lake house, like mountain house mansion. It's all going well, and then all of a sudden Chiyo comes bursting in to the living room and tells everyone in the room, and tells Jane and all her family that she's just murdered their rich grandpa, whose mansion this is. And it goes from there. And it was such an interesting concept. I was like, I need to know how this is a mystery, because the murder's just confessed. So I gave this book 3.5 stars. I was really intrigued to read this purely, like I said, purely because I couldn't tell where the mystery aspect would be in a book where in the second chapter someone confesses to a murder. But because of that, I definitely was curious to see where the plot was going to go, what the twist would be, how it would happen, how it was, you know, planned and directed. And I actually really enjoyed it. Once the police did their reveal of the outcome of the case, I just didn't feel that surprised. And I think it's because throughout the book they constantly keep bringing up all the points of evidence that they had, and so I couldn't be like, oh my god, I forgot about that, or, oh my god, yeah, that happened, because I knew every chapter it was brought up and mentioned. So it did kind of just ruin the surprise aspect of it, because it was so like drilled into you from the get-go. It was also really fun to read because this book was published in the 80s. Obviously the characters don't have phones, like the characters don't have mobile phones or emails or anything like that, so it is a proper like old school police case, which was really fun to read about, and really feel like whilst reading it I really felt like I was in another world, because phones weren't mentioned every 5 seconds, there weren't texts every 5 seconds, and it was just conversation, which I really liked. I just didn't like it more than a 3.5 star. If anyone watching this has any recommendations for other books, mainly thrillers and spooky books that me and my friend can buddy read, please do give me recommendations, because I'd love to hear them. And that is all the books that I read in April. I feel like 6 books is actually quite impressive. Considering I work full time, I'm quite proud of myself. If anyone's read any of the books that I have just talked about, please let me know, because I'd love to discuss further with you. I love to talk books, so it would be really fun. If anyone's made it this far, thank you so much for putting up with me trying to get comfortable in front of a camera again, because it's been a hot second. I just really like talking about books, so that's why I'm here. I'm sure I'll see you all again at some point on the internet, so thank you very much, and I'll see you very soon. Bye!